So I know you've seen the title and the thumbnail of this video, and you're probably thinking like, what the hell is this guy doing right now? This guy's talking about altcoins. Like, why don't you tell me what's going on with the market? Okay, now I know this video is going to be a little bit controversial, but there's tons of reasons why I don't believe that the cycle is over yet. Likely, right? Possibly. And I'm going to get into all of that and why I may think that. Now, this has been one of the toughest cycles that I've ever been a part of as well. And there's many reasons for that. Now, when you're looking at Bitcoin's price and looking at altcoins as well, it's just a little bit hard for me to tell you that the cycle is over when I see all of the things that are about to happen on the macro side of things, right? Because one thing I will say is that all of these charts that I'm looking at are looking extremely bearish, and they're flashing signals that usually lead into a bear market. So I can't even blame all the other people out there for thinking that we're going into one. But I must always reiterate that fundamentals play a strong part in where markets move, and not only fundamentals, but liquidity as well. Now, understanding that Jerome Powell isn't going to be the Fed chair within the next, I don't know, 6 months or so, whenever Trump can get him out of there, the next guy that's going to take his seat is going to be very bullish for the market. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't think the markets will have a chance to go down for the next 4 to 6 months. They absolutely do. And to be honest with you, come December 10th, depending on the rate cut, if we get no change or we get 25 points, will be the nail in the coffin for Bitcoin's price for at least the next 4 to 6 months. Or it could be one of the biggest and largest, strongest launch pads that we've ever had for the price of Bitcoin, and then eventually altcoins. So I know everyone's giving you their bearish takes online right now. I'm not here to do any of that. I am here to give you an altcoin, yes, that I think you should buy once the market finally bottoms out. And we'll talk about where we could possibly see that, because I also have a previous track record showing you altcoins when they're when the market's at its bottom. I don't like to give you these altcoins at the top and play into FOMO. And I also don't like to do the same thing on the bottom, on the downside, and play into your fear right now. What I want to do is give you these opportunities at the best possible prices so that you could see the most appreciation when you plan on holding these particular altcoins for a long period of time. So before we get into Canton Network, I first have to touch on what's going on with the markets right now. This is the most important thing, and this is what's been on everyone's mind. Now, as you can see, I showed this chart last week. Let me just get this last little thing off here, okay? So when you look at the charts this week, you can see that Bitcoin's price fell below this area right here. Now, the 50-day moving average plus the weekly, like I talked about last video, has always been a strong indicator of where cycles ended, right? If you go back, let me just change my cursor here. If you go back to the last bear market, as I talked about in the last video, when we cross this point right here, you can see I already drew lines here from the last video, and I said this. When we crossed below the 50-day, we ended up trying to retest this area here. So we crossed below and retested this area here, and we ended up falling down into a prolonged bear market. Now, this is why most people believe that this is that particular time. And it's even worse this time because, mind you, it's not like in 2024 spring here where we bounced back up above it and people thought that the top of the cycle was going to come in the end of 2025. This is happening when people think the top of the cycle is in, right? So people think that this is the top up here. Let me just draw a cursor for it. That this is the top up here, and that we've broken into a bear market because everyone's still stuck on the 4-year cycles. Now, one thing I keep trying to explain, I'll do my best to explain it, is that if the unemployment comes out bearish and negative, meaning a lot more people are being laid off and losing their jobs, the Fed is going to have no choice but to lower interest rates, and that liquidity eventually is going to find its way into the market. I'm not saying it's going to happen within the next 3 months, but it's definitely going to happen at some point in 2026, most likely between Q2 and Q4, end of 2026. That's just one marker, especially in my country, Canada. Let's talk about Canada first, right? You have a housing collapse that is terrorizing homeowners right now. If you don't know this, I think it's around 70% of our entire GDP in Canada is real estate. And the fact that most of these housing prices and home real, not just industrial, like residential real estate. And if you don't know, most home prices have went down 20%, 30%, even 40 to 50% over the past 2 to 3 years in price, right? Since we had that peak in 2022. So understanding that the Bank of Canada has to step in and continue to lower rates and provide some sort of stimulus. You see the same thing happening in America where unemployment is rising. You might have to step in and give some sort of stimulus. You have stimulus checks that possibly could be coming as well that's going to inject more liquidity into the market. You have the Fed potentially buying government bonds to help stimulate the market as well. You have a new Fed chair that's going to lower interest rates. You have the Bank of China, you have the EU, and all of these other countries talking about easing financial conditions. So even though the market's telling us what's happening right now, today, it's not going to tell you what's going to happen in 3 to 5 to 4 to 6 months. The only way you can tell those type of things is by fundamentals. Now, the last time this happened in the market, everyone was completely bearish as well, and everyone thought the market was over. Both of these times, the sentiment's always the same when things are not going people's way, and when the bears come out, they flood crypto Twitter, crypto X, whatever you want to call it, crypto YouTube. And they're very convincing because the charts are proving their biases. But the one thing I have to remind everybody is that whenever we've had these massive dips in the market, this is one thing that I honestly can't I can't overlook. So the potential for us to slip into a bear market is there, although I still don't believe that to be the case. It's a strong possibility. But I also want to point back to on the chart here that every time we've gotten this low on the RSI touching the 30 has always been a pretty good time to pick up Bitcoin, as you can see. And this is simply because we need to see what's happening first with rates and what's happening with the economy before we get too over bearish. I want to make something very, very, very clear. The charts show you what's happening right now. It doesn't account for what's going to happen in the future, and previous price action doesn't dictate future price action. ISM is still not crossed above 50. Business cycle has not flipped completely bullish yet. That is the whole point I'm trying to make. It hasn't expanded yet even. So today I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, I want to make this altcoin video because it's such a great opportunity. It's a massive opportunity. We're about to get into that in a moment, but I had to touch on why I'm giving you this altcoin, right? I want you to buy this thing when we're at max fear so you get the best possible price. I don't want you to buy this at the top of the market, and I don't want you to buy this at a time where the price could potentially get slammed. So yes, stick around. I'm going to explain absolutely everything. I'm going to show you a bit of my track record as well of calling out these altcoins at the lows, and we're going to ride out these bearish times together. So hold on to your hats. It's going to be a crazy 3 to 6 months. Now, to break the seal on the altcoin that I wanted to talk about today, this came out 4 days ago. Yes, 4 days ago. So this is fresh. This is hot, new on the market. And this is, I will honestly say, one of the best RWA opportunities that we're going to get, bar none, period. And I'm not BSing you. And I'm going to give you a quick sneak peek before I get into the crazy data. I went on rwa.xyz. I just want to show you something quickly, right? RWA count under 9,000, and total value so far on the Canton network is just under $400 billion. $400 billion in value already on this network. And I'm going to tell you where all of it's coming from. But before I give you the entire synopsis, what Canton is, how you can invest in it, I first have to show you my track record and give you just a few of the other altcoins that I've been able to call out really early. So first off, you can see over here, just about a year ago, if I click here, August 16th, 2024, sorry, you can see that I talked about a little coin, right? A little perpetual DEX called Apex. Well, little at the time, right? And I was talking about it in this video. If you go back to that point on the chart, let me do max here, and let me just show you what that chart looked like at the time. If I go over to August 16th, you can see here, it was sitting at a $40 million market cap. Not too long later, about 2 months later, it got less than 2 months, maybe a month and a half. It got all the way up to a $300 million market cap. Okay. That's just one gem for you. Now, currently, I will concede that it's not doing the greatest right now, but it's still up a whole 2x from that price point. Okay. Now, another one that I talked about extremely early, and this one, my subscribers have heard a million times, so bear with me. But for anyone that's new, subscribe to the channel because I want to come out with a fully dedicated market video next week that I'm going to drop next week to give you the entire synopsis of what the hell is going on so that you can maybe calm some of your fears or just give you a little bit more light, right? Nothing is for certain. I could be 100% wrong, but that I'm not leaning bearish just yet. I don't have a genie in the bottle and nobody has a genie in the bottle. I'm just telling you what's more likely to happen, okay? So as you can see here, let me just click it down there again, July 26, 2024. And I've been talking about a lot of altcoins around this time. Why? Because I knew that a lot of liquidity was about to come back into the market at this time as well. And you can see Research Coin. I talked about Research Coin at a $14.7 million market cap, okay? Now, if you go back on the charts again, right, like I talked about, go to the max charts here. And if I could find that time here, July, oh, you can see right there around July 2026, $14.6 million market cap. Only about 5-6 months later, we are sitting up at a $143 million market cap, a clean 10x. And the reason I thought what I thought was because Brian Armstrong is the founder, well, the co-founder of Research Coin. You can see it up here, Research Hub, right? And that was just pretty much my thought process. A very simple thought process, although I do love the technology, which I'm not going to get into today because I've done it enough. This is a DeSci coin, go and do your own research, but this is one of the reasons why I thought that. So this is the reason why I'm bringing you another one of these altcoins that I believe can do very well going into 2026. And you're going to be excited to hear some of the partners and the people that are working on Canton Network already. Now, we're going to get into all the deep information, so stay with me. Leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed the content up until this point. We're about to get into everything that you need to know about Canton Network to make an informed investing decision. Now, there isn't a lot of information on Canton Network out yet, so I used a mix of Google searches and Canton Network's website searches to get the bulk of the information here and a few other articles that came out about Canton. Relatively unknown project, but there's a reason for that I'm going to get into as well. So it says here, Canton Network is a public blockchain network designed for financial institutions. It enables secure, interoperable, and privacy-preserving transactions. Now, this week we saw Zcash go crazy. Why did we see Zcash go crazy? It's a privacy coin. Okay, let's get into it. Interoperability. We talked about Chainlink all the time and how it's an oracle. That's another good thing about this network as well. And it's actually a bridge between traditional finance and DeFi, right? Which is another big one as well. It's a RWA play, like I said already, and a lot of financial institutions are choosing to use Canton Network, which is why you see that massive amount of volume and value already on Canton Network. Now, understand that the companies on this network, it's pretty much just one platform that has the bulk of the value and revenue on Canton Network. You can see it here, 385 billion on Broadridge. Now, Broadridge is based on the Canton Network, right? And you have a bunch of these financial institutions using the Broadridge platform to do all of their repos. Now, what is a repo? A repo is essentially a place where a lot of financial institutions, investment banks usually, and central banks go to borrow and lend, and using government bonds as collateral to go ahead and access quick, short-term liquidity. So an actual Google definition, if I wasn't clear enough about what a repo market is, but a global repo market is a vital short-term funding market where financial institutions borrow and lend money using securities as collateral, which is, like I said, government bonds. It's often called the plumbing of the financial system because it ensures money flows efficiently between institutions with cash surpluses and those needing funding, such as investment banks, as I said already. Now, one thing that they didn't express here is that a lot of these financial institutions and these banks will dig into these repo markets when they're trying to stop sell-offs, for example. So when you see the stock market or even the housing market sell off like it did in 08 or even in 2020, you saw a lot of the money flow through these repo markets because they took a lot of these short-term loans in order to prop up the pretty much the economy, right? Yes, mortgage-backed securities were going to hell at that point, and obviously you saw in COVID how markets were going to hell. So they used a lot of these repo markets and this money to prop up a lot of these entities at this time, right? But the interesting part about what they're doing now is that they're using crypto and mainly stable coins to access a repo market 24/7. And the only way you can do that is on blockchain. And Canton is providing the privacy to do so, because you also can't track a lot of these transactions on Canton Network. And that's obviously all done intentionally, because these large financial institutions like to stay under the radar, which is why they're using Canton Network. Now, if you want to go and read about Canton Network on your own, you can go through all of their different white papers. They have so many white papers. And something I found really interesting is that when I clicked on one of their white papers, it had 2020 February 4th on here. Now, that's when they started building this protocol. So when you hear these financial institutions talk about, oh, we just want to see what's going on with crypto and blockchain, we're just testing out the technology, and we don't know if we want to invest it, or we're waiting for regulatory framework first before we make our decision. They've been on this stuff for years. Don't be fooled. JP Morgan, Citadel, all these guys have been looking at Bitcoin and blockchain for years and building on it for years. They're just waiting for regulatory framework to catch up first, and they're waiting for them to get their positions, to get their money and their pieces in place before they prop up crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain and serve it to the masses. Because at this point, there's still only 7% of the global population that actually owns any crypto at all. Just 7% out of 8 billion people, which is mind-boggling, because it doesn't seem like that when you're in crypto. But when you take a step back and you go out on the street and you talk about this stuff, like, oh yeah, that meme coin stuff, or they talk about, oh yeah, I heard about Bitcoin and ETH and Dogecoin, and maybe Solana if someone's really like delved into meme coins, but that's about it, right? So I say that to say, in times like this where it's so fearful, we have to make sure we're paying attention to what's going on and where the money's flowing and what's happening behind the scenes, because a lot of the times we just focus on headline, technical analysis, but what's happening fundamentally. I need to see both sides of the coin. That means that technical is looking at charts and what's happening fundamentally as far as macroeconomics. I need them both to match up for me to think that we're going into a bear market. Because on one hand, if you were to just look at technicals, you think that we're already in a freaking bear market. All these signals are flashing so bearish. But then when you look at what's happening fundamentally with rates and liquidity and everything else, it couldn't be setting up for a better 2026. Now, depending on when that happens, I don't know. I'm not a guru. I'm only telling you what I see, but I don't know how we could go into a prolonged bear market. I don't see how that could happen yet, but there's too much going on fundamentally well for me to see that. That's just where I'm going to leave it. Now, to get back into Canton Network, as I went on that rant that I hope you enjoyed, okay? I don't mean to veer off too far, but it's important things that I have to mention. Now, looking at Canton Network, $6 trillion on chain. And this is pretty much not just the value on chain. This is the amount of volume moving across on chain. Now, 4 trillion a month in just repo volume. Daily repo volume is over $300 billion. When I talk about these are massive amounts of short-term lending and borrowing going on, I mean it. 600 validators and 30 super validators. Now, if you know what a validator is, it's just someone there to secure the network on proof-of-stake blockchains. That's all they are. And what's more important is who the hell are these validators in this ecosystem that they're in. This is the ecosystem they're in. This is where the money is coming from, right? When you scroll down a little further, you have Banco Santander, you have Bank of America, freaking Bank of America, and tokenized assets. What did Larry Fink say he wants? Tokenized assets. Okay, you also have Barclays. You also have the Bank of China. Okay, you have the Bank of China as well. You have Binance US. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them because I think there's about like 200 or something like that. But when I go over to the super validators, which is more important to me, honestly, you see 21 shares there again, of course. So they probably just added everyone that is a super validator onto the validator page as well. But when you go a little bit further down, you can see, oh, Broadridge is there as well. You can see BNY. I believe this is a BNY Mellon, if I'm not mistaken. You have Bybit on here as well. You have Cantera as well on here. Let me just keep scrolling down. You have Chainlink on here, massive. You have Circle, so that's USDC. You have Citibank, right, as well. You can see Cointelegraph is on here. You have some of the largest names. You have Crypto.com. Some of the largest names in crypto and banking and finance already digging in their claws onto Canton Network, right? And crypto, right? Deutsche Bank you have here. Just and I don't see why people still think money is going to something like XRP, but that's for another video. Hopefully that's not you, and hopefully I didn't offend anyone. But when you look at what's going on, you can see all these are tokenized assets on chain. These are all tokenized assets. You have Fidelity, man. Remember Franklin Templeton. I could keep going. I could keep going, but I'm going to save you time. I'm going to save you the headache. I'm not going to keep going. I'm going to save you the headache because this network has the potential to make millionaires. Millionaires. So when I said that this was going to explode, I really, really meant it. Now, until we see markets come back more bullish, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to make these types of investments. I'm not telling you to buy anything. This is not financial advice whatsoever. But when we do finally see a bottom, and that is a market video I'm going to drop next week. So subscribe to the channel, subscribe for that, and leave a comment about any other types of videos you want to see me make. Or if you just want to see that market video, because I'm going to give you a timeline of when you should expect to be buying a lot of these assets, as I do every week or every other week anyways. Now, also looking at it, it's 24 hours. Obviously, it's on blockchain, so it's obviously 24 hours. It's a crypto derivatives platform as well with privacy, like they say here. And the reason why this is important is because markets close every day. They close at 4 p.m. every single day, and they close every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes they're closed on holidays. This market never closes. So no matter when they need this liquidity, it's readily available to them most of the time using stable coins. And maybe eventually looking out into the future, we'll start to use bonds as well. Okay. Look at what they're saying on their website. As you shape your stablecoin or on-chain payment strategy, privacy shouldn't be an afterthought. No one wants their payments permanently on display. Big banks, the big institutions don't want that either. Not you, your customers, or your counterparties. Unlike other public networks, Canton doesn't force a trade-off. It embeds the privacy business demand with the utility of real-world finance requires. This is almost, in a sense, this almost seems like to me all these large institutions came together and huddled up and decided what network are we going to provide most of our liquidity to, right? And they built something. They spent from, you saw from 2020 since the white paper got posted. So they've been using this for years. They've been using it for years. They've probably been working on it for even a lot longer than 2020, right? To be able to post a white paper similar to Bitcoin's white paper that's posted in 08 and start trading in 09. Satoshi Nakamoto was probably sitting there trying to create Bitcoin for a lot longer than that. So they're not gonna, it almost seems like they chose, this is what they chose to do to have the bulk of their resources flow into. Now, this isn't going to be the only blockchain that wins. It might be for institutions, but remember, we still got retail here, us, right? We need financing and we need different financial instruments available to us. So I still heavily believe in all these other networks like Solana, Base, Ethereum, for all different reasons, right? Now, if you're wondering where you could potentially pick up Canton Network, there's a few places right now. It's not trading everywhere, but it's only on centralized exchanges, of course. You should have known. It's just an institutional token. But you can go on Bybit, KuCoin, Gate, Kraken, and Find. Those are the only ones I would trust. I wouldn't go on whatever these two are, CoinX and BYD5. Kraken would be my first choice. If for whatever reason you can't access Kraken, then I'd go on Bybit. I would probably hold off on buying Canton Network right now. And to be honest with you, if you look at the RSI, it's reaching top signals as of right now. If anything, I would ask you to please at least wait until we got below 30 on the RSI here, where you had those last two drawdowns. It's probably just early investors taking profit over there as well. People that probably got into seed rounds and things like that. But there isn't a lot of price history or data yet. So that hasn't built any true support and resistance zones yet either, right? Price could fall straight through this level right here. Price could also break up and go into price discovery. Who knows? This token came out a week ago. There isn't enough price data for me to make any considerations about where the price might go. But if you wanted to look at where you could buy, this token, I would wait to get around sub 10 cents. If you got around 10 cents to 9 cents around there, I think that'd be a pretty decent time to pick up Canton Network, because that's around the lowest that it's been since inception, right? We don't know how low it can go. All I see is this massive candle wick on launch day, and it started off all the way down at 2 cents. So my goodness, a good 6x from that point. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Help us grow. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. We'd love for you to join the community. I'm also going to be starting some sort of exterior platform where we can go and talk all day and send messages back and forth, because a lot of you have been asking for that up to this point. So I'm going to figure that all out. I don't have a timeline yet for that, but subscribe, put post notifications on so you can get all the updates on what's happening with the market. Very turbulent times, but if anything, what I've always said is keep your emotions out of it. And when the fear is this high, it's usually always been a pretty good time to buy. Not financial advice, but love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.